welcome back to the Coworking Conference, the best coworking conference ever. We have a great session today with Pauline Roussel from Coworkies. And before starting, I want to oh, I want to appreciate our wonderful sponsor. We are here at the Valley, shouting from the Valley, from the place at the Valley. The Valley, remember, is a transformation. It's a hub from the innovation and digital transformation. It's also co-working. It's also Agra. It's also a digital school, and it's also a found. So this is our main sponsor. We also appreciate and we want to say thank you also to Nextitude. This is a co-working software for co-working spaces. And we also want to appreciate to guys give the thanks to Cobot, Iseo, and Craig. Today we are going to have Pauline Roussel, and with the session what we learn about remote working traveling about the world. But before we have a video from a sponsor, please, it's going to be just 1 minute and we come back.
Somos distintos y lo seremos aún más. En apenas unos meses hemos transformado nuestra forma de ver la vida, el trabajo y, por supuesto, la educación. Hemos borrado fronteras. Hemos mirado al futuro, teniendo muy claro qué queremos hoy y ahora. Hemos aprendido a vivir con la incertidumbre y a saber sacarle partido. Es el momento de reconstruir nuestros valores, prioridades y compañeros de viaje. Ahora somos flexibles, ágiles y rápidos. Ahora fluimos, nos deslizamos para adaptarnos a las nuevas realidades. ¿Te imaginas un lugar donde formarte a tu ritmo, de forma flexible, eligiendo los conocimientos que necesitas y accediendo a ellos desde donde quieras? Eso es The Valley Flow, un nuevo concepto de educación que supone escalar el modelo de aprendizaje, la combinación entre virtualidad y presencialidad. Estés donde estés, disfrutarás de la experiencia de una clase en directo, donde podrás interactuar con tus profesores y con tus compañeros. Ya no importa si prefieres estar en nuestras aulas, en tu puesto de trabajo o en tu casa. Ponemos la tecnología al servicio del aprendizaje y acercamos la clase al dispositivo que elijas para que la puedas seguir con toda la experiencia de la interacción, la participación y el aprendizaje colectivo, con total flexibilidad para adaptarse a la conveniencia y a la conciliación personal. The Valley Flow es un paso más en la educación superior. Es una experiencia de aprendizaje que une la formación presencial con la remota, borrando las fronteras entre los dos tipos de enseñanza y combinándolas para que tengas todo el abanico de opciones en tu mano, en la que desde el primer momento eres dueño del camino que tomas, al crear tu propio itinerario formativo. Paso a paso, diploma a diploma, puedes enfocar tu formación a la consecución de uno de los itinerarios recomendados por The Valley, y con la libertad de que no tienes que elegir por anticipado dónde quieres cursar el diploma. Cada día eliges tú. The Valley Flow. No hay muros que detengan las ganas de aprender.
Thanks, Vale. When we thought about this year and what was convenient to talk about in this conference, which is a much smaller version, and we have to choose really carefully the topics, we thought that it was really important to talk about remote workers. Remote workers, because of the pandemic, have increased a lot, and many companies have saw their policies change in the last months. So now employees from much more companies than in the past, like 2019, for example, are able to work remotely. So what does it mean for co-working space? For sure, it's an opportunity. And when we thought, who should we invite to talk about this, the name of Pauline came to our minds really fast, because it's true that many managers visit a lot of co-working spaces when they are traveling. Pauline and Coworkies have been traveling around for many years. Indeed, we met each other like 5 years ago when they were on that journey. So we asked her to share the best practices from co-working spaces which have been successfully attracting those kind of clients, those kind of members. So hi, Pauline. Welcome to the co-working conference.
Hello,
Hi,
Pauline.
Mark. Hi, Manu. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming again. Welcome back to the co-working conference.
Yes.
It's a message offline because we like to have you close to us, and you already come to few co-working Spain conference. But it's good to get at least it's good to have you online. So welcome back to the co-working conference. Please go ahead with your presentation. Okay, one time. I would just want to remember you have the presentation of Pauline able to download, just scrolling a bit down. Okay, so please, Pauline, go ahead.
And remember, all the attendees, you can ask questions in the chat, and Pauline will reply live after the video ends.
Go ahead.
Thank you, guys. Let's do this. So, hi, everyone. Oh, is it changing? Let me see. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Manu and Mark, for having me. As you just said, my name is Pauline. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Coworkies. We are a global job board targeted at co-working and flexible workspaces. Over the last 5 years, and together with Dimitar, as Mark and Manu just mentioned, we've traveled quite extensively around the world of co-working and collaborative workspaces. We've actually visited 420 co-working spaces across 47 cities. People often ask us why, and the reason behind it is we really wanted to understand what kind of impact co-working and collaborative workspaces have on people and on cities, but also explore how those new kind of work environments are actually reshaping the workplace and the way we work today, but also how we might potentially work tomorrow. Which has led us to write a book on the topic, which will soon come out, called Around the World in 250 Co-working Spaces. The book is a coffee table book, a physical product, highlighting 250 founders and giving them the opportunities to share their stories, show us their space, and talk about their communities. That's it about us today, and thanks to Manu and Mark, I will take you on a travel journey around the world of remote work, and I would like for you to better understand what remote work actually is and is not, how remote work can be an opportunity for co-working spaces, and also what are some of the key elements you need to consider to attract, welcome, and engage remote workers with your space and your community. Are you ready? Let's do this. The first thing I would like to start with is to define what is remote work actually. It is a working style that is based on the concept that work does not need to be done in a specific place to be executed successfully, which brings me to clear one of the biggest misconceptions about remote work. It can actually happen anywhere, and I really insist on anywhere. By that, I mean it can happen in a beautiful island, like most people might picture remote work, but also in big cities like Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, or on the countryside. When you carry research about remote work online, those are the kind of pictures you can find on websites like Unsplash, which really highlights what remote work is. It can happen on the floor of your house, on a nice sunbed by the pool, in a co-working space, in your flat, or in a nice cafe nearby your house. I would also like to talk about the correlation between remote work and co-working spaces in terms of opportunities and how they are linked with each other. So if remote work can happen anywhere, it definitely means that your space, you watching this now, can be on the radar of remote workers. But like with everything, you need to put a little bit of work for it to happen and for you to start attracting remote workers. On why you need to put a bit of work is like co-working spaces, due to their nature, are great environments for remote workers, but many companies and many people are still yet unaware or still do not fully understand what co-working spaces are, how they work and how they fit, which is the reason why you really need to put it on the map of larger companies and put it into their HR strategies, help them put it into their HR strategies, workplace strategies, so that the new hybrid ways of working also include co-working spaces in them. While preparing this presentation, I did some research to find some statistics about remote work lately. And what's interesting, this is a survey carried by Buffer, which is quite a large platform, among their communities. And when they asked them what location do you primarily work from, very unsurprisingly, and due to COVID and the fact that many spaces are closed, around the world, office or co-working, people have answered home. But what's interesting here is that co-working space comes right after company's office, which shows that it's not yet fully on the map for everyone. And one of the reasons that might also explain that is that for 72% of the respondents were sharing that their company do not yet cover the cost of a co-working membership. So it is still an investment that employees have to do themselves, which is changing, but that's still a fact. On the Spanish side of things, it seems that you guys are quite lucky and things are changing. While also doing some research for this presentation, I figured out that actually right now the Spanish government is structuring remote work and creating some framework around labor laws, adding a proper legal framework around remote work for companies and for their employees, which is actually a great opportunity because now employees doing remote work will have the chance to have a framework around it and can do it without being afraid of any potential issues, and same for companies. Spain is also a country that's very much looked at by many, me included, to move to. You might have recently seen the news, but the Canary Island local government has actually invested €500,000 in marketing campaigns to attract people from other regions of the world to move to the Canary Island, which again is a great opportunity for co-working spaces. We've actually done a live very recently with a co-working space from Las Palmas. If you guys from Talleres Palermo are watching this, hi. And they were sharing in the live that they've noticed over the last few months quite a big influx of people moving from other regions of Europe to Las Palmas to settle, notably thanks to the initiative launched by the local government. So again, a great opportunity. Another fact I found quite interesting in a survey carried by the University of Valencia is that in less than a decade from now, 50% of the Spanish companies are expected to actually offer remote working as part of their workplace strategy and as part of their organizational structure, which again is a great opportunity for you as a co-working operator to attract people to your space. But what matters above everything else is this. What people seek when they do remote work is first the experience behind remote work, but also the freedom. Remote work can happen pretty much, as we've just seen, from anywhere. It gives them the freedom to decide when they want to work, where they want to work from the comfort of their bed or from your co-working space. And when they choose to work in a co-working space, what they really want to have is the experience, which is what you should focus on. And it's because it's the strength of a co-working space to offer a different experience than the home or a cafe to people who use them. In order for you to find more inspiration and understanding about remote work, I've actually invited two co-working owners I've had the chance to personally meet while traveling the world, who have both been working with remote workers even prior to the pandemic. They are going to share with us their story, their insights, so you can also get inspired. Let's do this. The first person I'm going to chat with is called Yosho Tsuda. He's the founder of Morino Office, a co-working space located in Fujimi, 2 hours away from Tokyo in Japan. Yosho took what you can see on the screen now, what was formerly a summer camp for children, and transformed it into a beautiful co-working space in the middle of nature. Are you ready? Let's hear from Yosho. Let's do it. Hi, Yosho. How are you?
Great. And how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm actually very excited to have you here and to have you with me at the Co-working Spain conference. Let's dive right into the topic of remote work. The first question I want to ask you is how have remote workers discovered about Morino Office?
Discovered, yes. Well, we've been in action for 6 years now, and I guess we've been covered by a lot of media due to the trends of people getting away from the city, like in Tokyo, into the rural area, the countryside of Japan. And after the pandemic, when people search for some place to get away from the big cities, they find us. And we're in this really good high mountain, highland countryside. And I guess it's very the ideal place for them.
And as you said, you've been working for 6 years already with remote workers and more now. Do you see any difference between the needs of people who use Morino Office because they are remote working and locals who come to the space, but they also live in Fujimi?
Well, before the pandemic, most of our users were freelancers who moved away from the cities to live in the countryside, and for the people in Tokyo who are working in big companies, they haven't been working remote before 2020, which is the pandemic, and now a lot of the company employees are working remote, and they are coming here to work remote or get away from the cities. Their need for like privacy and Zoom calls stands out more than the previous users we used to have before the pandemic. So probably that's it's a slight, but it's a big difference.
And my last question to you, have you noticed any disruption, or how has the integration between people who use the space on a daily basis because they live with you and people who come from time to time, how is the dynamic, or what are the synergies or challenges maybe happening between people?
We surely need more video meeting booth right now.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of Zoom calls, But other than that, I guess it's not a big challenge compared to our startup era. Back in like 5-6 years ago, we had a lot of challenges. But compared to that, it's not it's not of a big of deal. It's really hard to have like meetups and gathering like we used to do 2 years ago. We used to have one of those meetings, gather up lunchtime, dinner time with the users and also the very local people. But now and the newcomers, we see a lot of newcomers and also the old members interacting, and some becoming friends right now. And I think the atmosphere we build up throughout these years, 5 to 6 years, I think the newcomers are getting used to that thing, to the atmospheres, and I guess even they are like the employees in the company or the big companies in Tokyo. Here, they chat with other people, and I guess there's a really good atmosphere to openly chat with other people. So right now, I think the newcomers are getting used to this atmosphere and becoming more friends, and I think that's the best thing that we are facing right now.
And just on that note, people who are coming to Morino Office for remote working, how long in general, on average, how long do you see them staying? Is it 1 day, 3 days, a week? How long do they stay?
The remote workers, like the workation users, in other words, 2 to 3 day is the regular period, but it's very rare for Japanese because we don't get any long vacations. But 4 to 5 days are we see those kind of users increasing right now, and I think that's very rare for the before pandemic. We only just have like 1 or 2 days off. That's the basic Japanese vacation, but it's getting longer.
Great, thank you so much, Yosho, for sharing. For people who are watching this now and wish to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Just hit me up on Facebook, Instagram. Just search for Morino Office and give us an email or a message. Yeah, we'll be waiting.
Awesome. Thank you, Yosho.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yoshio, for sharing your insights. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It is now time for us to make our way to Cowork Funchal, a co-working space located on the island of Madeira, where we are going to meet André Lora, who is the founder of Cowork Funchal and who took a huge building located in the center of Madeira, Funchal, sorry, and who transformed it into a multi-purpose space, co-working included. André has quite some experience with remote workers, and here right now, everything he has learned since he started his co-working space. Let's hear it from André. Hi, André, how are you?
Perfect. And you, Pauline?
I'm quite good, actually. I'm very, very happy that you are here with us today at Coworking Spain, and I'm excited for people who do not know you yet to meet you.
It's good to be here.
One of the first things I want to ask you again about remote working is how did remote workers, when they started to come to Cowork Funchal, how did they discover your space?
Well, we're not the only one, but I think we're the only one real co-work space, at least the only good one. There was some small limitations in Funchal, but it didn't work well. They didn't work the community. It never worked out. So it's actually very easy, and because our name is Cowork Funchal, so you just open Google and put Cowork Funchal, we're everywhere. So it's very easy to stumble on us, very easy to get to talk to us, and very easy to find our space because we are really central on the city, and I guess everybody just comes to us.
And did you do anything on your end to attract remote workers?
Not really. I think I can say the best magnet for our co-work space is the island.
Yeah.
Because it's an amazing place to live, and I'm really being honest here. It's just not because I'm Madeiran. The quality of life here is amazing. The weather is good all year round. We are European. We are safe. We are not expensive. We are we have connections to all over Europe. And Madeira, it's a paradise, really. You know, especially for nature-oriented people, people who like to enjoy outdoors. We have beautiful mountains, beautiful valleys, everything to do in the mountains, all the, sports that are related to it. And of course, we are an island, so there's sea everywhere. People that enjoy diving, surfing. We are considered the Hawaii of Europe.
Oh, nice.
We have amazing surf spots, windsurf, sailing, and then you go to the mountains, you have everything else, like canyoning and parasailing and trails, a lot of trails, a lot of worldwide, European and world competitions of trails here, which are beautiful. And it's just very good.
And have you noticed any difference between the needs of remote workers versus the needs of your community of locals?
Not really. I think it's even easier because, it's even easier to welcome foreigners because, first of all, they come with a totally different mindset. You don't really have to push what cowork is or what the spirit is. They searched it, so they want a space like this. And fortunately, we were very lucky to be in this amazing building, and I think we did a good work refurbishing it and creating the community and the space. And so when people come, not only they are already working for a co-work space, that they are very excited to see a very good co-work space. So it's really easy. Actually, easier than the locals that in the beginning were a bit suspicious. They really didn't know how it worked. The whole sharing thing was a bit strange for them. I'm going to give you an example. Like in the beginning, we had people coming to let's say our rented desk on our co-work space. And they would ask, oh, okay, it's nice, but people are going to see what I'm doing. And I said, yeah, exactly. That's the point. That's exactly the point, because then you can have feedback, you can talk to people about your business, you can create business with everyone. So it's if you come to a co-work space and expect people not to see you what you're doing, you're not in the right place. There are traditional offices for you. You are welcome to search them outside. So I say, in general, it's much easier when it's serendipity and people just come because they already know the spirit and it's something that they want to share and work in.
And when we talk about remote workers, do you see now more people who are, what are their background, let's say, or their job? Like a lot of people are wondering if it's only freelancers or if it actually also are employees, or maybe the companies coming all together for a remote working session.
Yeah, it's not my experience so far, since there was this, especially since there was this avalanche of people coming. It's not, you cannot define a target or a niche or whatever. We see everything from the typical digital nomad that just wants to stay for 2 or 3 weeks and meet something new and have a few drinks and, you know, meet the island and go again, to the remote worker with a family that has a design, you know, is a web designer, you can work anywhere, and yes, small kids, because the quality of life is amazing here. I must really stress this part. It's a beautiful place for young families to start, you know, to raise kids. We've been getting a lot of even startups and new businesses coming, because Madeira also has a very attractive tax related for some companies to settle here. So it's everything. It's a good mixture, actually. Yeah.
And my last question to you, in this presentation, we've talked about before the potential fear that co-working spaces have when they do not yet work with remote workers, about an eventual disruption it could cause with their actual community. What's your take on that? Have you experienced a disruption or some issues or challenges by mixing the two target groups, like locals and remote workers, or actually some magic happens?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. It was easy. It was. It's actually. I'm. Now that you asked me the question like this, I'm even surprised that I didn't even think about it, because it was so natural. Nothing happened. Of course, when you deal with a lot of people, there are more nice people, more crazy people, more, but that's everywhere. But in general, it was very smooth. Yeah. And actually, it turned around. We have a lot of foreigners now. Maybe it's even like 50-50 now on our customer base, and there was no issues at all.
That's great, and I think a lot of people will feel like they can also do it themselves and try it out, at least for their co-working space. Yeah,
absolutely. You should, and they bring a lot of freshness and new looks, and new conversations, and especially because we are an island, we miss that. It's good for us. It's healthy to you know, talk to people with different backgrounds, different perspectives, different kinds of working, you know, possibilities, because the world is changing at an exponential pace. You know, it's actually, well, we could stay here all week long talking about the problems that, you know, traditional education will have in the future of businesses and work stuff. And it's good that we as an island that are still basically a bit in the past start getting more, you know, outside perspective, and seeing, especially the young ones, seeing how can you know, live your life and work in a lot of different non-related to traditional education works in the future now.
And my last question, but more related to you, if people want to, because it's a short conversation, so I guess if people have questions and want to ask you more things, can they send you an email, or what's the best way to get to you?
Of course. So if you just open Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever search engine you use and search for Coworking Shell, will be on the first spot. And you can reach us on the webpage. There's our email there. There's even a web chat. You can even Facebook and Instagram, all the channels. It's very easy to connect with us. Just send us a message, and my dear Katya, that is here every day with me, will respond promptly, trying to answer all your questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, André, and have a nice rest of your day then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, André, for sharing your insights. I hope you guys were able to take quite some notes about what both of the speakers have shared. It is now time for me to share some takeaways for you to continue the reflection around remote work. I have three I would like to share. The first one is this, more related to how can remote workers find you. While remote workers, when they seek a co-working space to work from, they might very likely type on Google co-working space around me. You have few ways you can increase your chances to be discovered. Some of the things I would advise you to consider are those. First, is your website up to date with the latest COVID-19 measures and rules? It is quite important now for people to feel that they can work from a place that is safe. So make sure that you highlight that on your website. Another thing I would like to invite you to check is your Google description up to date. Many co-working spaces changed it during the pandemic and marked themselves as closed. Make sure it's not the case if your space is currently open, and that you updated your opening times if they changed in any way. Another thing you can also check is your SEO and content strategy. Are both of them including terms such as remote work in them? If you want companies that type remote work to find you, it might be interesting for you to explore SEO and content strategy ways that can help you be seen. Same goes on social media. Do you use actually hashtags related to remote work that can bring you up on the search of people who are interested to discover about remote work environments? And last but not least, are you also listed on co-working platforms to upscale your SEO and increase your chances to be more seen by people looking for co-working spaces? Are you sure your space is listed there? If not, it might be an interesting way for you to consider doing. Second takeaway, I would also invite you to be a little bit more proactive and kind of look for them and bring them to your space instead of just waiting for them to come to you. There are a few ways you can do that. The first one would be, that I could suggest, would be to join Facebook groups targeted at remote workers in your city or in your country. Contact the admin of those groups and see how you can promote your co-working space or your community, offer them a discount, for instance. That might be a nice way to attract people to your door. Also identify platforms and communities specifically targeted at remote workers. Some that comes to my mind are, for instance, Remote Here or Hacker Paradise, who work with independent workers or companies and bring them around the world for a few months to experience remote work. So if you wish to welcome them, I would advise you to check what they are doing and contact them directly. And another thing I can recommend you to do is to read the news, try to see which companies in your region are currently changing their policies and including remote work. Look for them on LinkedIn, contact them and see what kind of synergies you can build with those companies and how you can attract their workers to work within your space. Bringing me to my last takeaway, more specifically targeted at your space. While you shouldn't change everything to cater to the needs of remote workers, there are a few things you might think about if you want to maximize your chance of working with remote workers. One of the first things I would invite you to think about is your working hours. Many remote workers are actually working with different time zones, which requires them to come either very early or stay very late in your space. So if at the moment this is not something you can do because you have specific hours, you might consider either changing it or thinking about the ways you can help whenever they need it. Another thing, not just necessarily important just for remote workers, but for everyone, is how fast and reliable is your internet? It's a question that you might get asked quite often. So if you do not promote it very heavily on your website might be a good idea to actually put it very obviously how fast and reliable that is, because now with COVID-19 and the fact that we understood we do not need to travel so much, for more and more meetings are happening online, which means more and more people are expecting great internet connections. Sometimes their home connection is not good enough, which is where co-working can really be an added value for them. And last but not least, also thinking about memberships that you currently offer. Do you have one that's flexible enough for remote workers? As you might have understood, they might not want to work from your space every day, but do you offer them the opportunity to work for a few hours, for a day or so? And if not, would you be ready to create memberships that are a little bit more flexible? That's it. That's all for me. I hope you found this presentation relevant and interesting for you. And I hope you were able to take some notes. If you wish to connect with me, you have here my email. If your space is hiring, you can consider our job board. And if you look for more inspiration, you have access to our book by the URL we added on the presentation below. And last but not least, if you seek more inspiration from the world of co-working, come and join us on Instagram, where we host weekly co-working tours with spaces featured in our book. That's it, that's all. Thank you for watching, and I hope we can meet in person very soon.
Thank you, Pauline. Presentation was awesome.
Thank you.
You set a really high bar, but yeah, it's really good. In this journey, you have seen a lot of examples, two of them shown in the previous videos. But I was curious about something you said. One of these points you mentioned, it's the different time zones, right? This is not only about what you said, to give the members the opportunity to work outside of their standard, like local working times, but also some spaces may struggle with having a day pass or some kind of really flexible membership working when there's no staff. Do you have any advice from the spaces you visited? Any tricks, anything that they can, like fight the fears they may have to have this kind of memberships, to offer this kind of memberships to people that is not very well known because they just arrived maybe 5 days before and they are leaving in maybe 2 weeks, something like that?
I believe it's also a matter of trying things out. Countless of times we've seen spaces implementing new memberships just because they wanted to see how people would react to them or how that would work with their community, which is also why, as I said in the presentation, might work for co-working spaces, especially if you have a very tight community and you don't want to have disruptions. Then maybe remote workers are not made for you because, as you said, Marc, some of them might just come a few days a week, or they might just be there for a few months and then they leave. So you might consider that as a distraction for your community. But for those of you who are ready to try it out, I would advise you to start with a smaller scale. So maybe start having a more flexible membership and see how that works with your community. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. You can always stop and be like, okay, that's not for me. And we've seen quite a few co-working spaces do it this way and try at first with a smaller group to see how that works with the community they currently have.
Yeah, maybe someone coming from a company or someone coming that it's a relative or a friend of someone in the space, that may help to see which are the pain points and how to solve that. Manuel, do you have any question?
Yes, I'm always I'm with you. I'm jealous about how many places you travel. So you travel around 47 countries, and I'm jealous about that. Right? So, but I want to ask, what is the country you think is more friendly to remote workers, or your favorite country in this point of view? If I'm a remote worker and I want, or a normal worker and I want to go, which country you recommend me?
I mean, you might be disappointed by my answer, but I really think Spain is a great place for that.
Oh, I think that what you were going to say, Bali, or I know.
I mean, yes, of course. I mean, Bali, definitely. I've not been myself. I mean, I've been, but not for co-working exploration, to Bali myself. I think Spain, due to its geographic location, like more or less in the middle of everything, you have nice weather 365 days. It's actually a great country for that. And it's also, I mean, remote workers or people who travel while working, they also seek security, safety, good healthcare system. And I think those are all the elements that Spain can offer. And Spain also has amazing nature. You have islands, you have mountains. So I think you have a lot of points for remote workers, as some other areas of the world that we've seen, for instance, who also had interesting places like India, for instance. Next to Goa, you have quite a lot of remote workers who go there, but more because of the beach, or Thailand. But it's not exactly the same as Spain on other things, other points. So yeah, I think Spain is really on the map for that.
Okay, thank you very much. It's true that some local governments, like Canary Island government, is promoting the island from remoters. Also, less quantity, but also the Malaga government and also the Valencia government is doing that movement. Also, the Lisbon government is working on the media, social media, to make a really great campaign about for remote workers to bring it to Lisbon. So I think it's going to be a kind of war, or kind of promoting the countries as remote destinations, almost in the South Europe, right? Spain, Portugal, Italy, maybe Greece. And do you check, or do you see this kind of campaigns in other countries, like, I know, maybe Asia, or maybe America, Latin America?
At the moment, not really. I think a lot of those regions are still very much impacted by COVID. So it's very difficult for them to have a perspective or to have a visibility. And also, one thing that I should mention is that, you know, we are Europeans, so we have the chance to travel very freely across Europe, which is something that does not require visa, not necessarily quarantine, etc. Whereas in Thailand, for instance, if people want to go to Thailand now, you have to have 14 days quarantine, you have to be vaccinated, you have to also book a hotel that's quite expensive. So, you know, like the cost of traveling adds on, which is not the case in Europe. I saw an interesting initiative on the island of Madeira still, about a person that want to create a city and make it a remote worker city by the beach. So, you know, like in Europe, there are a lot of initiatives being targeted at remote workers. And I think the great advantage is that people can go everywhere very freely.
That's true that you mentioned. I want to mention Nacho Rodriguez from Las Palmas de Gran Canaria. He's from Repeople, and he worked a lot, really hard to make a Canary Island remote workers. And he also had the conference from Nomad City that is made over there. So he's making a lot of work, but years ago, not just because of the pandemic. It's years ago he's working on that. And I want to make another question, because traveling is travel around the world. I'm really jealous. But what about with traveling around the world with families? Do you see this? Because when I see my family, I want to travel around the world. I see my family, so I cannot do that right now. But do you check some families traveling?
Yes, actually, very interestingly enough, we see now surge for families starting to buy a camper van. So they move, let's say, in South America or in Australia, they buy a van and then they drive around with their children. They do homeschooling, or they do school online. So there are more and more initiatives also targeted at families. And recently I came across an article that, for instance, just in America, they've never sold so many camper vans because everybody now is preparing for a potential other pandemic or something like that. And they still want to have the freedom to explore their countries or wherever they're based. And in that regard, having a van can just really push you to do it freely. So I think that's also great for remote work, actually, because people will be able to drive around and then find a co-working space they can work from as well.
We have seen in the US the surge of what they call Zoom cities, right? So, for example, in Lake Tahoe, that is around 300 kilometers away from San Francisco area, a lot of tech companies' employees, which have been given the freedom of working wherever they want, at least I think until 2022, like having this kind of surge. You mentioned that Spain is a country which has a really good balance in between all the nature, all the features of a destination, but also the location and the safety. But being, and I know it's a really difficult question, but if you want to replicate the Madeira kind of example, like creating a remote worker town or a Zoom city, where would you do that in Spain?
That's a difficult question. I've not been to all Spain, so it's difficult for me to answer. I mean, I guess anywhere there, you guys have so many cool places, maybe by the beach around Valencia, or there are so many secret places. I mean, if you look at the guys from Sun & Co in Javea, they also do a great work to have like a smaller towns, maybe. I think that would be interesting actually to start develop a co-working, co-living concept or co-working places in more like remote locations to help villages get like the life that they are missing because everybody goes to bigger cities. I think what matters above everything, if you think about doing a co-work, just how accessible it is. So make sure that people somehow, or that it's not so far away from an airport, or that they can come by car if they rent a car. I think accessibility matters a lot because people, although they settle, they still need to be able to travel and come to you if they need to. So yeah, I think I would look at that also.
Thank you very much, Pauline. And now let's go. No?
I have another question.
Another one? Okay, go ahead.
No, sorry. We almost all of us, we know the example of Selina, that a big company that offers hotels and recreation and workstations for remote workers or nomad, and it's I love the model. No, like you pay to them just a monthly fee, and you can go all around the world to the hotels. I don't know if you check another examples about this, because I just know Selina, but do you know any other examples similar to them?
I think you have a website called Outsite. They do something that's quite fairly similar. I believe at the moment they have locations in the US, South America, and in Europe. We interviewed, I remember, their founder when they started. He's a guy from Belgium. When they started quite a few years ago, and I believe they have the same more or less concept as Selina. So yeah, outsite.co, if I'm not mistaken, was their website.
Thank you very much.
Another question. What is your book coming up?
So it's quite a journey with COVID because we are experiencing a little bit of delay with the paper delivery, but we hope by June it will be ready. And from then on, we hope we can travel around Europe to do a lot of events and gather the co-working community around launching events with the book.
I'm asking this because I already bought the book, so I'm waiting for it.
Yes, and Mark too, by the way.
Okay, Mark.
Okay, thank you so much for being part of the co-working conference. Thank you so much for your explanations. I think that they will be really helpful for a lot of people that is wondering how to attract this kind of new members. Some of them coming from environments which maybe they were not used to work with this kind of people. They were more on the freelance kind of, and now we have this kind of corporate remote worker and people approaching from other different environments. Thank you so much. And remember, now it's time for live questions.
Thank you very much, Pauline.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. Okay, so now, as Mark said, it's time for questions. Thank you.
Here I am. Here you are.
Hola, Marc. Hola, Pauline. Nada, Marc, te dejo a los mandos de las preguntas. Bienvenido. Welcome, Pauline. Mark, you are the master of the questions, so go ahead, please.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Pauline. Welcome to another session of the 2021 CWSC. And thanks for the amazing introduction to remote work and to give a little bit of light in this amazing world that right now it's more a trend than ever before. And we have to start 3 questions. So I will start for the first one to be made by Ben Kolb. I said, on your trip around the world, which country stuck you surprisingly, as the least developed, aware about the concept of co-working and flex spaces?
So very interestingly enough, I have to say France. Although I am French and people might be like, oh, really? The first time I went to France to look at co-working was in 2016. And it seemed very, I don't know, like it was so slow to start. Like the people were not aware of it. The concept was not very grasped. People were struggling, and still today they fight a lot for the term because we have a word in French that defines co-working. And so there is a little bit of a war between people that call themselves with the French word and then the English word. So I don't know, somehow I feel France is, now it's changing, things are developing, there are a lot of initiatives I see, even in the mountains and everything that are starting to develop. But I always felt that France was a little bit behind everybody somehow. Also in terms of content, I should say, like in French, you don't have so much content about co-working online. You also don't have much of a community like you guys have at Co-working Spain, sorry. So yeah, I felt France, I was a bit disappointed, I have to say, by France.
I was not expecting that answer. So yeah, I guess it's quite surprising that a country like France does not have, you know, more co-working or at least a more developed idea as anyone.
It's really changing though. Now you have a lot of bigger operators that are French and that are growing, not just in Paris, because also when co-working started in France, a lot of it was in Paris and the rest of the country was totally forgotten. But now you start to see a lot of interesting initiatives developed in second-tier cities and even villages and all. So it's changing, but I still think it's very slow.
Okay, nice. Then we have two questions from Berta Mereyes. Said, hi, great session. I have two questions. First one, why it doesn't work in Santiago de Compostela? Here, there is a lot of tourists. I don't know if you have ever been in Santiago.
I've never been, but I know it because it's a very popular road to walk to. So I'm surprised actually that I would love to know why she believes it's not working. Maybe people are not aware that there's something else to do. I don't know how much the city communicates also about what's possible to be done in Santiago de Compostela. I think it's like in general, when you have a co-working space, it's also a little bit on the shoulder of the local authorities to help you promote what's going on in your city and in your region. Which is why, for instance, now the Canary Islands are getting involved and you can see the direct impact because many co-working spaces from Las Palmas or even Tenerife start to really see a different or an influx of people because they do promotion, they have the budget to do it. So is the municipality doing such thing? And then if they don't, you can also do it yourself, but then it's a lot of work because you have to put out content to start promoting Santiago de Compostela for something else than for this very popular touristic road that people would usually take. Because also probably there is now that I'm thinking about it, there might also be a different target group, like what are the age of the people doing the path or the walk to Santiago de Compostela versus the age of the remote workers. Are they fully aware of what's around the city? What kind of like environment are they going to come to? So I think it's a lot about promoting not just the space, but what's the surrounding looking like as well.
Mm-hmm. I would say that you had a nice list of tasks to do and things to check in the website in the kind of communication. So I would invite Berta to check that list after the session and to review her website, because I have been checking some minutes ago when I saw this question. And for example, I see a mix of languages in the homepage and I have the browser in English. So everything more or less is in English, but then some parts appeared in Gallego. And so maybe the people visiting may do not feel that they are like 100% welcome. So it's easier for people to offer an environment in which they know that they are going to be understood. So when there's a mix of things, maybe it's not as easy as, it's not perceived easy, let's say it that way. So let's go ahead to the second one. How could I create a rural co-working in the house I was born where the Camino Santiago goes next?
Great question. I love people who want to start co-working spaces. I think you should go gradually. I don't know what's the state of the house. Is it like, does it need renovation, no renovation? But also maybe test the water. So try with friends or friends of friends and see what's their perception. Try to understand who you want to do that for. Is it only remote workers, or do you want to do it also for locals or people from Spain, for instance, who want to come for an escape for a week, a month, a weekend? Try first to define, who are you doing this for? Why do you want to do this? Like, what's your personal why? Why do you want to launch a co-working space there? What's the reasoning? To have a purpose. I believe that many co-working spaces that succeed, they have a very clear purpose. Why are they doing this and for who? And yeah, then no need to invest a lot of money very heavily at the beginning. In the book, we have countless examples of people who've done the things with time, trying at first to make it a little bit bootstrapped, and then gradually upgrading with the community. I think it's very important to build a community around what you want to do, and then listen to their needs and make it with them, because you also create this sense of engagement around your space, and people feel more committed. A great example I can give you, if you want to look for some inspiration, is in Bulgaria. Maybe you know co-working Bansko. It's a co-working space located in the mountains. Matthias, who is a German guy who moved from Bavaria to Bansko, has done an amazing job. I have to give that to him, to put Bansko on the worldwide map, especially for digital nomads. And now I've been to Bansko not very long ago because I'm currently in Bulgaria. You can really see an influx also of remote workers, because when people look online where to go, Bansko is really on the map, and he's the only co-working space because it's a small village. Sorry, he's Austrian. Thank you for correcting me, Ben. I thought he was German. I thought he's Spanish.
Also, you have also a great example in Galicia this Sunday. So
that's true. Actually, I think Africa
really
was telling me about it. Yeah.
So this is a great example, the small town in Ourense. So this guy came to the Co-working Spain conference in Alicante 2 years ago. So this is a really interesting project and really interesting guy. So you can check them Sunday.
Yeah.
Co-working. Okay.
And also you can look at Moreno Office, Yosho, who spoke in the presentation. He's also in a village in the middle of nowhere. They have a website in English, and they have a co-working with a co-living space. So you can check different initiatives and see how they do it, and maybe also connect with them. I'm sure people usually love to share their own stories. So don't be shy to connect with other co-working space owners and operators.
Okay, thank you, Pauline, for that reply. Ben called another question. Said, any idea on the range what a digital nomads are ready to pay for a co-living experience monthly?
I think it really depends on the region, where they go. I came across a very big range of prices, from 500 euro a month from, let's say, operators themselves to, I think, Selina, or maybe outside, I forgot which one, but even Hacker Paradise or those companies, they also include more things. So it goes into the 1,000, 2,000 euros a month. So I think the range is really, really also depending on the services you offer. Because usually those companies, they plug other things around. It's of course you can stay, you can work, but they give you access to experiences. So you can go, I don't know, scuba diving, or you can go for hikes. They plan a lot of things around. Also like a language school, because a lot of people, you don't forget that, Mark, actually, you brought a great point saying that your website should be in English, but also a lot of people like me would like to learn Spanish or be better at Spanish. So if you know people who can give classes, that's also a great way to attract people to your spaces and to give them Spanish classes. So yeah, I think to answer your question, Ben, there's a really big, it depends really on what you offer. I cannot give you a concrete price, and I think it depends on the region. Like Manu was talking about Bali in the first questions, there the prices are very different from what you could find in Europe. And even in Europe, you have very big differences if you go to Spain or if you go to France or Bulgaria or Greece. This also varies. I'm sorry, I cannot give a concrete answer.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, every location will have a different price, and also depending on the kind of public. You also have to consider the flight tickets and where your audience coming. So what I would do in this case, Ben, is to start wondering which kind of nomads are you looking for. So then the answer to this question, it may be easier. Okay, Victor Vázquez. Hello from Sevilla. This is Victor from Arcadia Coworking. I have a tricky question about a tricky and boring topic: taxes in capital letters. Do you think taxing policies in different countries can determine how attractive a country can be for remote workers? In Arcadia Coworking, we usually have remote workers coming from other parts of Europe, and they are not familiar with the inter-community operators thing. Do you think that taxing is an important factor in the process to decide a remote location to work, either within Europe or out of the UN? Postscript, congrats for the session, Pauline.
Thank you, Victor, for your question. It's a great question. Actually, it's also interesting because I was talking about it very recently. There are two, I think we can see this in two different angles. First, you have people who will be using co-working spaces or do the remote experience while still being resident of their country. So whether they live, I don't know, in Germany, in France, or whatever, they will not change their location. So they will stay in their country, and they will then be most likely able to or need to pay taxes in their residency country. But for people who decide to do the full move, so move and register in the country, I definitely believe that taxation is very important. Very recently, for instance, in Bulgaria, they have a very low tax, which has also played for Bansko. Because of that, a lot of people have moved there. But more recently, I was talking with co-working spaces in Dubai, and there it's the same, a very, very low taxation, close to no taxation, that has attracted a lot of people. So I definitely believe that if this is something your locality or your country offers and that you can promote, you should, because of course it matters. Very important for people to know that there are like a taxation relief, or that they can somehow benefit through the taxation system versus where they are based, especially for countries that are more in Northern Europe, where they are quite heavily taxed, Germany or other northern country like Copenhagen, Denmark, sorry. Yeah, I think if it's an advantage, you should definitely use it on your end.
Yeah, I think that Serbian government in 2019, they announced a 6 months tax break for digital nomads coming to the country. So yeah, that's for sure. That's it. So thank you very much. If there are no more questions, we are going to say goodbye to the session. And I mean, it's your last chance, people. No questions? Okay, so thank you very much, Pauline.
Thank you for having me. It was really nice. I always enjoy being with you guys. I should also say a big kudos for all the work you've been doing. We are very big supporters of your work, and I think very often, people don't say it often, but we really appreciate everything that Co-working Spain is doing for the Spanish community and beyond. So thank you to you, Manu and Mark, for that.
Thank you very much. There's also a team of 2 more people. It's Laura and Susana that also make a great job. And I want to, Mark, you want to say something?
There's one question, last minute question. This is very typical Spanish, but we love it. I guess we are like this. From Victor from Arcadia. You mentioned that in France the co-working movement is increasingly bigger. Any clue about how to get these potential French co-workers?
I believe that you can start maybe doing some promotion using social media. Maybe try to do a few advertising in French for the French crowd. A lot of people in France right now are actually relocating themselves in Spain because they seek just a better life. I'm myself very much considering to do it. I just have to make the jump. But yeah, I would really, and maybe also try, if you speak French or if you know someone who can help you, to reach to, like, there are a lot of digital nomads groups, French speaking groups, where they constantly talk to each other about where to go. So a lot of people recommend themselves places where they liked being or where they have been and they really enjoyed it. So also try to go to those groups and post in French, or if sometimes they even post in English, to talk about your space and what you're doing, because I do believe that French people are traveling and they would definitely go to Spain. I mean, they already do so.
I have to say that you said if you know someone who speaks French, and I can tell you that when French people find someone who can speak in French, which in the past, for example, in Spain, I mean, many years ago, it was more popular French than English as an option in school. Many years ago, they are really impacted in a positive way. So I think that that's a great advice. Okay. So
I'm going to close. We have any questions? Yes,
No,
I will close. Okay, thanks, Pauline, to be here. Thanks for your work. We love your work as well. I want to close this panel, and I also want to say that the next session will be on Tuesday, but at 4th afternoon. Okay, we are going to connect with Luis Perez from the Instant Group in Latin America. We are going to connect with Javier Garcia from iOS Office, and we are going to be connected with Uri Iskin from Hit Cowork. It's going to be a great session. The session is called Tres Visiones del Coworking en Latinoamérica. Okay, and these three guys are really awesome. The panel, I think, is really good. And the session was, when we did it, was one of the best ones. So we recommend everybody to join this session on next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Okay, so thank you very much. See you soon, and hope the next year we see each other in the same space together. Okay?
Yeah, but together, exactly. Thank you, guys. See you.
Physical. We want to see everyone physical. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Ciao.
Bye bye.